Welcome to the Cadmatic podcast with data-driven shipbuilding, your source for stories and insights from the evolving world of ship design and construction.
My name is Juan Prieto. We are here at the WorkBoat Show 2025 today, together with Spencer Fair, who is now responsible for the Arctic Security Cutter program at Seaspan, and previously also responsible for the Cadmatic implementation. And I'm also here with my colleague Maria Delalat, who is the sales director for Central Europe. And we are here to talk today about how Seaspan implemented Cadmatic and how that journey has been the last 5 years. But before we start, how would you describe Seaspan today and the type of programs that you are delivering?
So Seaspan's been on a journey under Canada's national shipbuilding strategy for about 15 years now. It's primarily government programs, so Navy and Coast Guard programs make up a bulk of our order book. We started off with a few Coast Guard programs for the offshore fisheries vessels. But then we've now progressed into 2 Navy ships for the Royal Canadian Navy, the Joint Support Ship. And then on the Coast Guard side, we've got primarily icebreakers now. So we started off with a few ice-capable vessels, but now we've progressed into some pretty complex icebreakers in our Polar Class 2 icebreaker, which is the flagship for the Canadian Coast Guard, and the multi-purpose icebreaker program, which will be 16 vessels, which essentially is the workhorse for the Canadian Coast Guard over the next 30 or 40 years.
It seems that Seaspan now has a pretty full order book for the next years to come. So which of these programs that you just mentioned places the highest demand on the digital integration between design and production?
It's a good question. When we started off on the NSS, we had a pretty rudimentary tool set and we were just rebuilding our processes. But once we won the multi-purpose icebreaker program, the 16 ships, that was when we said we needed to kind of take a step back and look at how we wanted to structure that program for the long term. Ultimately, that's a huge opportunity when you have that many vessels of a platform to look for kind of digitalization, look for the digital twin opportunities, and develop a data model around that ship that you can leverage into production and look for those opportunities to reduce costs and ultimately reduce the long-term operating costs of the vessel.
So you'd say that the multi-purpose icebreaker and the sister ship was, let's say, the turning point for Seaspan to reevaluate the whole production and the design tool chain.
Absolutely, yeah. That was where we honestly needed to take a step shift in our approach to our end-to-end process. But honestly, with the Polar Class 2 icebreaker, that came into our order book after we got the multi-purpose icebreaker program. It's a PC2 icebreaker. It's a huge technical lift for us, not just in the engineering side, but also in production. So we knew we needed to build kind of a data model around that ship that we could feed into our systems to look for those opportunities to kind of industrialize our workforce and give them some new capabilities. Because honestly, just a ship of that size is a challenge for any shipyard.
So when you were evaluating a new solution, what kind of requirements were non-negotiable to Seaspan? When
we were defining the requirements, we came to Elematic and Cadmatic back in 2020 and did get a demo, and I'll remember sitting there. The thing that kind of popped off the page at us was the multi-site modeling capability, so that ability to have distributed teams working across the globe or across the country or in different offices. The second was the object-based kind of structure behind Cadmatic. So we had previously been working in more of an AutoCAD-based shipbuilding process. So when we saw that Cadmatic is an object-based database essentially that you're generating, and you can have the integrated tools between electrical, between steel, between the outfitting items, we just saw the opportunity to integrate that with our different systems of PLM, MRP, and then some of our machine interfaces down on the shop floor as well.
So fair to say that Cadmatic enables you to optimize all the processes or even maybe design new processes from design to production.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Cadmatic and the data structure that it has underneath it provided a significant amount of opportunities. And it's opportunities we're still trying to capture today. So we're still working today, 5 years later, on different process improvement projects, integrations with our different systems, such as our piping fabrication facility. So we're still pursuing those opportunities, and it'll be a journey for another 10 years probably still, as we continue to optimize the different areas of the business based on that.
And on that, I mean, it is important that you have a good tools, and as Cadmatic appears to be the one that you are actually utilizing and enables you. How would you describe actually the people behind this partnership? would you say that they are understanding your needs, the challenges that you have, but also the process of shipbuilding in order to be able to help you in these processes?
I think one of the things that's been fantastic about working with Cadmatic is we have been partners for the last 5 years. I mean, we now have an office sitting next door to each other, and we've kind of been in the trenches together on kind of improving our processes, but also finding improvements in the tool set and looking for opportunities that you guys can do some developments, bake that into the core product, and now there are elements there that are based on some of the projects that we've done together, such as our assembly planning capability and looking at how we're feeding our piping manufacturing facility as well.
Going back to the implementation part, when you're selecting a software, what were the biggest risks you considered when you're changing from a ship design platform?
I think the biggest risk is always disruption for the team. It's a big lift to retrain everyone and find engineers and designers that are capable and comfortable in a tool set, which is why we wanted to make the decision to change once we started the big program. So going into the multi-purpose icebreaker program, we knew that before we started that effort, we needed to take the leap and start the work in Cadmatic. I think cutting over a shipbuilding program halfway through is kind of a non-starter. It's extremely challenging. So it was the decision to go before the next big program at the yard.
What gave you the confidence that you can say now we can move forward with this decision?
I think we spent a good year almost doing the trade study and looking at the requirements, comparing the different tools on the market. We also did a pilot block as well, where we modeled one of our previous ship blocks in Cadmatic, produced drawings out of it. So we did quite a bit of due diligence and work internally, and that also helped inform us of our implementation plan. So what are the things we needed to focus on there?
And from that point, when you made a decision, how long did it take to go from a basic use to a real productivity at the shipyard?
I think it was honestly about 12 months before we were comfortable and we had people working in the tool. It is a big lift to change your CAD system, but I mean, these programs run a long time, and it seems like a long time now, but now that we're 5 years in, it's about a moment in time, and it's like it was yesterday.
It was not only, of course, the Cadmatic implementation, but also reassessing the processes that you had before.
Absolutely. Like, I was talking with our VP of Engineering, Jim, about this before we came here, and switching to Cadmatic was a catalyst for us to break the mold on our processes. So when we started the multi-purpose icebreaker program, we knew we wanted to do something different. And how do you convince people to do something different and really think about how they're doing the work every day? Forcing them to change is like one of the ways you can do that. And when we forced the team and made the decision to go into Cadmatic and build an integrated PLM system, we had to take a step back, document our processes, think about where the areas of opportunity are, and then start to focus on those. So yeah, Cadmatic was the main catalyst for us to redevelop our end-to-end processes and think about how we build that digital thread all the way through to production.
So on this digital thread, so this was probably a very important part, to have the 3D model become the primary source for downstream information.
Yeah, that was a big shift for us. Previously, we really only started generating the model during our production design phase. Once we started in Cadmatic, already coming out of the concept phase, we started building the Cadmatic model, which is very atypical, I would say. But we've been maturing the models coming out of basic through functional design into detailed design now for both the polar icebreaker, the PC2, as well as the multi-purpose icebreakers. So we have extremely mature models now that we're able to use to do different planning, to do supply chain work, to get more accurate estimates. So starting using Cadmatic from essentially day one of engineering work has been a really interesting opportunity and given us a lot of information that we can use in different ways.
How has the alignment then between the engineering, the planning, and production improved now?
I think that is one of the most interesting things about starting to develop the model that early, is now there's a central product for everyone to discuss and look at. Having that model is a real tangible form that you can then talk through a supply chain, you can extract and get data out of. Honestly, with the Cadmatic model, the data that we're producing through all these phases is information that we're able to share, discuss, and work with planning, with production, come up with build strategies more accurately earlier on, do our MTOs and material estimates earlier on. start to do material forecasting and look at our demand schedule based on the model and our block breakdown and our build strategy. We can do this forecasting for when we actually think we'll need material.
What are the differences that you see today in the deliverables that Cadmatic provide related to your drawings, to the spools and the nest cutting data that you can take downstream?
I think what's interesting is that we're able to use the Cadmatic model to produce not just one deliverable, which was previously the production drawings, but we're able to produce multiple deliverables for different purposes. And I think that's the journey we're on, is looking at the opportunity for each different value stream. Between steel, now we've got an integrated system with our nesting tool that we're using that's directly feeding the machines with much less post-processing. We're also being able to execute plate marking, which is one of the projects that we've done together, to be able to mark all the steel plates with the outfitting locations to reduce the amount of drawings that we need, and that the production workers can then trust that the locations and the measurements that are marked on the plates are accurate and no longer have to get the drawing out to verify. That's one of the big opportunities that we've pursued on the steel. On piping, we've got an integrated system now with our piping fabrication facility, where we're extracting the piping component files out of Cadmatic and feeding those directly into like a management operating system and a production tool that essentially is working as providing the drawings to the piping fabricators, as well as the quality information, the MRP and the planning information. So getting that model directly out or that information directly out of the model instead of producing a spool drawing is like a big step change for us.
You mentioned basically many parts in the design process and in the production, but what parts of the life cycle of the vessel are covered today at Seaspan? Is there anything that is still missing that you still want to achieve?
I think it's still a journey for us. I mean, one thing that I mentioned before is that we started using Cadmatic already out of concept design. So that was like a big step change, and I would say that we're probably quite unique in doing that, where we're already in the basic design phase building that Cadmatic model, and we're going to maintain that same Cadmatic model all the way through to delivery and post-delivery. So we pretty much have Cadmatic now implemented for all life cycles of the vessel.
What has brought to the organization in doing that way, using Cadmatic and having all the models from the beginning, having it in Cadmatic?
I think it's brought a centralized view on the product that we're creating, so everyone can always point to this is the source of truth, is what we aim to have, and everyone can look at the model as it's developing and understand the product that's being created from the different disciplines, from steel, from electrical, from piping and machinery, to deck outfitting, interior, joiner. Developing that single model and maintaining it rather than having separate models for different phases has just kind of centralized kind of the discussion and the source of truth for the information, and having that continuity and just developing and maturing that model over each of the phases has been really helpful.
And how would that single source of truth or continuity that you just mentioned would have played out in the previous cases, in the previous solutions?
I think one of the challenges is we had a PLM database and we had a model, and those two were never in sync. So now that we have integrated Cadmatic with our PLM system, being able to manage the configuration of the bill of materials and the data that's within the model, but also the models themselves is the project that we've been working on most recently with you guys. And it's a big step change for us to really have configuration control over the design as we're releasing it to production, and then managing the change, which is inevitable for every shipyard.
So going back to the sister ship that you mentioned earlier, how do you manage the design changes to make sure that all of these vessels remain consistency with each other?
I think, as I mentioned, when we selected Cadmatic, that was one of the main goals for the multi-purpose icebreaker program. When we're doing a run of 16 ships, reducing the amount of times we have to do work twice, 3 times, 4 times, is absolutely where you get your savings and your efficiencies going forward. That being said, not every ship is the same. As much as we'd like to agree, it's just a Control-C, Control-V of all the design data. That's just not the reality. So having Cadmatic and the capability that we've been developing with you guys and implementing with our PLM system to track and implement those changes, maintain the consistency and reduce the amount of rework when possible, but then still being able to maintain the configuration and implement those changes, has been a huge step forward from our previous sister ship, which was a process on the joint support ship.
So you can say that the Cadmatic sister ship functionality provides you delivery confidence and predictability on what is going to be delivered, and also probably while reducing the cost of not redoing the engineering work.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately about like control of the data. There's an immense amount of data. You need to maintain some of the data, you need to change some of the data, and we're absolutely more comfortable with the data model that we have in Cadmatic right now, and our ability to measure and see the deltas and implement changes where required.
And how would you describe the relationship or working relationship you have with Cadmatic nowadays? We've been partners now for 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a journey. I think it's been fun to go through this with you guys, and I think it's been a learning experience for both of us. Obviously, we're doing a lot of things for the first time and building these integrations with our different tools, and I think we've had people from Cadmatic embedded in our organization now for 5 years, kind of working together, not just on the day-to-day running of the machine, but also we've done projects like we talked about of our kind of automated assembly planning.
That's going to be my next question. Like, if you have examples of where the collaboration influenced the Cadmatic product and the Cadmatic roadmap.
Yeah, I think the two ones that jump off the page for us are the assembly planning. So we work together to build an assembly planning capability, so you could do visual planning out of the model and essentially build your manufacturing bill of materials in Cadmatic and then export that into your MRP system. I think that's been a big step forward, and there's a lot of automation opportunities that we're able to build together. The second one is around the plate marking. So as I mentioned before, just being able to mark the steel plates with the outfitting locations, it was a key capability that we knew we wanted to have, and we worked together to get that capability into Cadmatic, and now I think it's in the core product.
And what advice would you give to other shipyards that are considering a similar transition that Seaspan did?
I think the big thing is always looking at really what's most important in the process for you, and maintaining that kind of North Star. For us, we knew we wanted to change our process and use this as a catalyst to kind of break the mold on what we were doing. And our main goal was really build that data model of the ship and find ways that we can use that data efficiently and effectively with our different systems. So define really what your North Star is and what you want to do with it, and then find ways you can execute projects around that.
And looking ahead, looking at this North Star you mentioned, how does Cadmatic fit into Seaspan long-term digital strategy?
I think it's a core part where we still have projects on our roadmap coming up next year, right, that we're working together on. We really are aiming to go to like a paperless shop floor. That is one of our key goals, and that is something now that we're developing that type of data, the data model with Cadmatic around our ship model, is possible. So getting Cadmatic on the iPads, getting it in the model in the hands of the shop floor, getting them the information that's most relevant to the work orders that they're trying to do. You know, to filter and find that information quickly on the shop floor is absolutely critical. So one of the key goals is a paperless shop floor, and we're working together to leverage the data and build the data model and integrate it with those tools to support that.
So my final question, what are the next steps for Seaspan, and how does the future look like?
I think it's pretty exciting. I mean, we've been on a phenomenal journey for the last 15 years. It really is a journey where we are trying to digitalize the shipyard from start to finish. So we're implementing a new ERP system and implementing or integrating Cadmatic and our PLM system with that to kind of have that end-to-end kind of thread. But we're also looking for the integration all the way through to our different fabricators and facilities. So I think we are really trying to lead the charge in terms of building that digital shipyard. And I think it's been a huge amount of fun working with you guys and executing these projects, and I think there's a lot more still to come.
Perfect. With that, I'd like to thank Spencer Fair from Seaspan for coming here, and also Maria Delalat for joining me here at the WorkBoat Show 2025 for this casual chat about Cadmatic and the digital implementation. Thank you.
Thank you.